if you haven't, I know most of you have done a lot of homework in D12, but if you need special help, let the TAs know. This is a first run for everybody with our homework, so if we encounter a big problem in the homework, just have patience with us, we'll fix it. You're given not only 3 chances to do the homework, but after you take each attempt, we show you each question you got wrong, and since a lot of them are true false, it should be a pretty easy one overall to take. As far as your clickers, they were working Wednesday, I just didn't realize it. And we're going to try them in just a minute. You do, as far as my class, not necessarily, but as far as my classes, you don't need to register your clickers. When you send in an answer, it's going to have your clicker ID. On homework 1, I ask you for your clicker ID. And so then I'll be able to, once I know your clicker ID and your name, that's all I need to know. If you're interested in a pretty easy and fun 1-hour course where you simulate a cattle market, please email Daryl Peel very soon. I think today's the last day you can add a course. Anything I need to tend to before I start? I want you to know that the 2 videos that we posted on this section, as far as the kind of question I can ask, I've got a sample true-false question right under the video title. Now what we're going to do now, in labs, we really looked at private property. You were probably surprised to find that people once question private property. You think it's obvious private property good, but I'm going to show you a way that you are being asked today through some documentaries to not believe in property or believe that private property should only be held in certain circumstances.
And so this is new. They've never come out and boarded up a house after they evicted the person and threw their furniture in the dumpster. So they're letting us know that they are stepping it up, boarding up somebody's house.
This has been my family home. This is my parents' house. I lived here for 41 years. It's the only home I ever really lived in. This always be home to me, no matter what. Oh, I'm a carpenter.
That's all I am. You know, people pay their bills, you don't get them out.
Well, people pay their bills, they give you
Happy to you. That's right. But so what do you think I'm doing? I don't have to be happy about this, but that's what I do.
Well, that's all I'm saying is that, you know, maybe you can make another choice. That's all we're saying.
There's no reason for
You're a working class person. All of us
people
out
to
here.
get upset and almost get themselves hurt.
Well, we ain't gonna get hurt. And we're not gonna get hurt. Are you threatening us? Y'all gonna get a lot of hell. You might end up even getting hurt. Talking about us getting hurt, you might get hurt.
There's got to be some kind of a rebellion between the people that have nothing and the people that's...
Now we're saddened to see something like that. We don't want poor people, probably very good, hard-working people who fall in hard times, to lose the house because they can't either make the mortgage payment if they took a loan or made the rent payment they were written. At the same time, if you own a house, you probably feel like you have the right to determine who lives in there and who doesn't. And if something happens where we go in and say, well, you may own the house, but we're going to let them stay in it anyway because they're poor and you're not, that is no different than confiscation of private property. And so we see in a documentary in America today that we are being asked and we're being tested the extent to which that we really believe in property. Now, just to show you, I want to give you, I like you to understand economics in film, in popular film. And I'm going to show you a scene from Dr. Zhivago. It's about a Russian doctor, middle class, and after the Russian Revolution, he comes home, and they had a fairly nice house in St. Petersburg. But what the Bolsheviks did in a lot of places, they just took the home. They said, okay, you can stay in your home, but we're going to give the rest of your home to all these other people.
Yuri, this is Comrade Yelkin, our local delegate. He lives here.
How do you do? Welcome.
Comrade Caprogina?
Welcome.
It is not for you to welcome us, comrade.
Comrade Caprogina is the chairman of the Residence Committee.
Yes, of course.
Your discharge paper.
Yes. I signed it myself, I'm afraid. Holy Cross.
Fine.
Holy Cross Hospital, it's on.
The Second Reformed Hospital.
Oh. Good, it needed reforming.
Medicals report to their place of work at once.
Yes, I believe there's typhus.
You've been listening to rumor mongers, comrade. There is no typhus in our city.
Well, that's good news. I'll report tomorrow.
When you've started work, you get a rest book.
I've always worked.
You are.
There was living space for 13 families in this one house.
Yes. Yes, this is a better arrangement, comrades. More just.
A quick comment, then we are going to test the clickers. There are times when we often feel like we want to do things to help people. And all of us are good people. I want you to think about something. Suppose during these hard times, we do say, okay, everybody who's been renting an apartment for at least 5 years, you get to stay in your apartment whether you pay your rent or not. That would undoubtedly help a lot of people. There is no doubt about that. If you get to live rent-free, that's good for them. It hurts the landlord, but it's good for some people, certain people that we may be particularly concerned with. But in economics, we always want to go past stage one. We want to think long term. We want to say, what happens next? What happens next? And we have to recognize that if people are going to rent an apartment, someone has to build the apartment in the first place. And except for people like Habitat for Humanity, people generally build apartments to make money. So when people now know they may build an apartment, pay millions and millions of dollars to have something built, and then it's taken away from them, they may not want to build the apartments. And then apartments get run down. There's no new apartments. 10 years down the road, we help people now, but 10 years from now, there aren't many places to live. And that is what happened in Russia. Some people got a living space they didn't have before, but after 10 years went by, they were running out of room for anybody to live because there was never anybody's incentive to build new places or keep up places. Let's take out our clickers now. Try it again. And let's use channel 44. Be patient. Y'all made me lose my confidence last time that was working. And y'all made me think it wasn't. So don't do that again. That's very bad. All right. We're all using channel 44. Ready? Okay. You can go ahead and answer. Are you in class today?
Are you seeing that?
Yes, it's not open.
Okay, let's try it again.
I don't have anything on that screen. I'm 44.
Okay, and then
Let me look at one thing, then I'll stop when it's been on class.
What do you see when it's popping up?
I don't know, it's not popping up anymore. That's it. What else is it like right now?
Well, let's do this. On Monday, I'm going to come early, and let's have some people help experiment with me. We'll try it like 10 minutes before class. We'll try to do it here. That way I can come here and fiddle with a little. It's working everybody except this room. Let me do one more thing. Okay. Be that way. Go to that sheet of paper that we were working on last time. I believe we left off on the natural gas story, is that correct?
Yes.
We've got 2 more things to go on this one. This right here, most of us know that Australia began as a place for English to ship convicts. And the people who took them there did it for money. And at first, the English government just paid a ship captain a certain amount per person that they transported. And unfortunately, many of these ship captains were very, very cruel. They didn't treat the people well. You can see some pictures where they put them in jails. They did not feed them well. They did not have any health care. And in some cases, most of the prisoners died before they got to Australia. That's how bad the conditions were. Well, the English government wanted to do something about that, but it's not like they could pass regulations out on the sea. These are big seas. You can't just go find the ships and see how they're keeping people. So they had to figure out a better way. And I'd say the 2 things that we're probably going to write down. The one, I want you to know that initially, ship captains were paid per person that they shipped to Australia. And that the captains had no incentive to treat them well, and many died. However you want to say it, in your work. Lots of prisoners died, treated poorly. Were paid per person that they took to Australia. The captains paid them per person that they took to Australia. The prisoners were treated badly. What's one way to fix that? Any ideas? Pay for a live person. That's exactly what they did. They said, well, if you treat a prisoner bad and they die on the way, you're not going to get any money for it. So we're going to pay you per person that is alive when they reach Australia. And that's the last thing I want you to write down. Problem will solve. Not paying the captains for each person that reached Australia alive. Remember what we're trying to do here, what we're talking about in economics, is making people's self-interests coincide with social interests. It was in the interest of the English people that the prisoners make it to Australia alive. That was something they believed in. But they wanted it to be in the ship captain's incentive too. And so they just changed the way they compensated it. That way, what's in the ship's interest, ship captain's interest, is in the interest of society. That's the whole theme of this one slide. And then our last thing here. Has to do with student loans. And this graph shows a lot of different type of loans people have. Now about, and the recession started in 2008, they started to decline, but student loans keep going up. There's more and more student loan debt out there. There's a lot of articles in the Wall Street Journal lately about law students and MBA students who can't find a job that pays enough to pay their student loans back, and they're living with their parents, things like that. This is like the people who are evicted from the house. We don't want people to take on more debt than they can pay. So we might say, I'm going to tell you what the right is in a minute, but listen to me. So we might say, you know what? If you go bankrupt, your home mortgage goes away, doesn't it? If you took out a loan to get a car and you go bankrupt, that loan goes away as well. If you have too much debt and you go bankrupt, the whole purpose of bankrupt is making all that debt go away. But student loans are not included. Student loan debt is not forgivable upon bankruptcy. And that's one thing I want you to write down. Upon bankruptcy, student loans are not forgiven. Upon bankruptcy, student loans are not forgiven. You might want to add, unlike other debt. Upon bankruptcy, student loans are not forgiven, unlike other debt. And you want to make sure that in 2 weeks now you look back and it says not forgiven. You can remember what that means. Always remember, if you're not sure, there's a video up about exactly what I'm saying. So maybe this is something we want to do something about. Now you may ask, why is student loan debt not forgiven? Well, what happens if you have a mortgage on the house, you go bankrupt, and you leave the house? What happens to the house? Sold to someone, to the bank. The people who loan you money, they can at least sell the house, right?
You give it back.
Yeah, you give it back. Car, they come repo it. I'm sure we've all been in that unfortunate incident, having dinner. Maybe your first date, the repo man comes, and you stand up to fight him, but you realize he's a very big person, so you pretend like he's not there. Student loans, you can't do that though. What are you going to get back? Your diploma? Lobotomy, yeah. But that's not a value. It does take away from you. It's not that you can't sell that part of the brain. That's why it's not forgiven. So we can kind of understand it. But maybe we say, you know what, we're at a point where we need to make student loans forgiven. And if we do that, people with debt right now will benefit. But this is like that house. If we know we help these people right now by saying student loans are forgiven upon bankruptcy, we want to go further. We say, what happens next? What about 5, 10 years down the road?
Nobody can get one.
Nobody can get loans, exactly. Now, so a lot of source of these loans is government. So it may be that government is willing to loan you lots of money and doesn't care much if it's paid back. But a lot of the people loaning money for student loans are private lenders like banks. And if they believe that you can take $100,000 of student loans and then enter the workforce and go bankruptcy and not pay back a dime, they loaned you a money, they don't pay back anything. If they know that is a possibility, they're not going to want to make you a loan. And this is what we're going to write. Let me say the whole sentence first. So you think about exactly how you want to like it. Right? Something like, we could forgive student loans that would help people now, but it would reduce loans available in future years. We could forgive student loans. It would help people now. It would reduce loans available in future years. Exactly like the scene from Michael Moore's thinking. Anybody want me to say it again? We could forgive student loans that would help some people now, but would reduce loans available later. Now, all this concludes the Introduction to Economics section, and we're going to start getting more into the meat of the course. What I'm going to do here, we're going to start with individuals and think about how individuals interact with each other in something called game theory, then how they we put lots of people together in markets, then we're going to put lots of markets together to bring us to politics. That's why I call that seed side, from people to prices to politics. I had asked you to print out the questions from the game theory article. Get it out. We might look at it today. We might not. What we're going to do now, we're going to be looking at this thing called game theory. At first, take my word for this, you don't want to try to take notes at first. Everything that we're doing up here is in that article. And to be redundant, to be writing it down. What we're going to do, we're going to actually play some games. I want you to sit there, really think about how the game works, really think about what people should do. This is the kind of thing that, before the stuff we do is kind of like a memorization. But now we're learning a system of logic, a few terms in a system of logic. And if you can just learn this little bit of logic, then it makes it very easy to understand a whole lot of questions on the test. So you don't have to do that much studying for it. Are the Rogers twins here? Could y'all come forward, please? We have identical twins in the class. And what we're going to do, we're going to play a game called Tear These Twins Apart. I'm going to let y'all earn money, Rogers, real money. Okay. Let me have one of you over here and one of you over there. You will. That article on game theory starts with a game called Prisoner's Dilemma. This is just a variant of that game. And that whole article is about these kind of games. So we're starting here. We're going to lay on some real moolah here. All right. This belonged to some lady in the grocery store parking lot yesterday, but it don't belong. And here's what we're going to do.
That's terrible. Oh.
We're going to pretend like these are two competitors in a market. They're both selling something called lysine. Don't worry about that, what that is right now. But they're competitors, meaning if I'm a customer, I can go to one twin or the other twin. I don't know which one is the evil twin, so I would have no natural preference for one over another in the beginning. And they got to figure out, well, each person can charge a high price or they can charge a low price. And this is how this game is set up. Let's pretend like you're Ajinomoto. You're Japanese, just didn't know it. You can charge a high price or a low price. So you're Ajinomoto, these are your two choices. Rogers, you're ADM. You've probably heard of them. You can charge a high price or you can charge a low price. These numbers in the middle tell you what kind of profits they make based off their choices. So we start off, if both charge a low price, that's like them engaging in a price war. And ADM is in red, so if they charge a low price, and Ajinomoto charges a low price, ADM makes $30. And Ajinomoto makes $30. If somehow y'all could collude and both charge high prices, the customers don't have anywhere else to go. So they got to come to one of you. And if you're both charging high prices, it's like you're both coming together and acting like a monopoly. And now, both of you get $50. But they're not talking about, they're not making this decision simultaneous. Each person decides whether they charge a high price or a low price before they know what the other person's charging. And let's look over here. Okay, you're Ajinomoto. Suppose that you believe ADM is going to charge a high price. And you think about, well, what should we do? Well, if we know ADM is charging a high price, if you charge a high price, you get $50. But if you charge a low price, you get $60. She's charging a high price, you're charging a low price, everybody comes to you, you make a lot of money, you only get $10. She's at low, you're at high. Conversely, if you charge a high price, now we're thinking about ADM, suppose you know that Ajinomoto is charging a high price. You say to yourself, well, if I charge a high price, I get 50. If I charge a low price, I get 60. And you only get 10. Suppose that Ajinomoto charges a low price and ADM charges a high price. How much does Ajinomoto get? 60. How much does ADM get? 10. Okay. In a minute, and they're going to make this decision. They're going to write it on a piece of paper without talking to each other. Then we're going to bring them together. And if, say, Ajinomoto gets $50, I'm going to give them $5. So they're going to actually get a number of dollar bills equal to each thing, each of the actual profits divided by 10. Now let me ask you, what do you think Ajinomoto should do? Why do you say low? Someone said the word always. Can you say we? I think you're saying what I'm about to say, just using slightly different words. There's this thing, this word in the article called a dominant strategy. And if you just think about what dominant strategy is, dominant means always wins, right? So a dominant strategy always wins. Let's imagine that we're Ajinomoto for a moment. Suppose we know that ADM is going to charge a high price. What should Ajinomoto charge? Low price, 60, 70, 50. Conversely, suppose you really believe that ADM is going to charge a low price. Then what should Ajinomoto charge? Low price, because 30 is better than 10. If you know ADM is going to be over here in low, you're choosing between high and low, you prefer 30 to 10. Let's repeat it again. When ADM charges high, Ajinomoto should do what? Low. When ADM charges low, Ajinomoto should do what? Low. Low always wins. Low is a dominant strategy. It's always the best, regardless of what the competitor does. So it even doesn't even really make that much difference what she does. Is low price a dominant strategy for ADM too? It is. The game is symmetrical. Let's think about ADM for a minute. If she knows Ajinomoto is going to charge a high price, what does she want to do? Low, because 60 is better than 50. If she knows Ajinomoto is going to charge a low price, what does she charge? Low, because 30 is better than 10. Usually the students who have trouble with this section of the course just have trouble understanding how the game works and how much money each person makes. So based on what we just said, if they only play this game once, we expect each person to do what? So we expect each of them going to be here. Does that seem wrong?
Partner up and everybody makes money.
They can do better than this, can't they? If they work together. But I defined the game such that they can't come together and write a contract about what each other does. Now, it might be that both recognize it's in their both interests to charge a high price, and they'll do it. One thing we know about twins, they either love each other ardently or they spite each other. And if anybody might charge high, might be an identical twin. I don't know. Ready to find out? Okay, twins. Each of you go to your piece of paper, write down either high or low. If you write down high, you're charging a high price. If you write down low, you're charging a low price. What do you think they did? Raise your hand if you think they both did high. Raise your hand if you think they both did low. Raise your hand if you think they made different choices. I should have asked y'all to write down what team you were for and took this, but it's not going to matter because one says low and one says low. They both follow the dominant strategy. You decide for yourself whether you should applaud for them or not. I don't need to applaud because I'm going to give them money. And that's better than any applause you can ever do. Do y'all want to play again? Okay, thank y'all girls. Does anybody else want to play? Okay, you come down, young man, and the girl next to him. Wait a minute, are y'all spouses or anything? No. Are you really? No. Okay. Do you know each other?
Yes. Yeah.
How?
She lives more above me.
What's that? Your friends?
We live in the same.
Nothing more? It's maybe like one kind of wants to be more, but the other one... Write down your name. Yeah, you're Ajinomoto. Write down your company name. You're ADM, and she's Ajinomoto. Now, in reality, this isn't a good metaphor for how businesses run. Because businesses, they play this game, but they don't just play once, do they? They make products this month, next month, next month. And so a better metaphor for how the business world works is to play this game over and over and over. So what we're going to do, we're going to play the game over and over. After each round, we're going to reveal what each person chose. Then they're going to play again. I'm going to give each person the average of their payoffs. So like if you play 3 times, you got 50 each time, 5 by 10, average 5. So the better you do overall in each round, the more money you get. Does that make sense? Okay. Chris, you going to keep track for me? Yeah. Okay. And y'all understand the game, I believe. Let's go ahead and do the first round. Both people write down round 1 or just put 1 and put high or low. He's at ADM. You need help spelling? Raise your hand if you think they both chose low. Raise your hand if you think they both chose high. ADM, Ajinomoto chose high. ADM chose low. I'm liking this. Okay. Now we're going to do round 2. Same deal. You write down low or high. He got 6. She got 1. Ajinomoto, high. ADM, low. Round 3. Round 3. Keep in mind that they don't know when this game is going to end. Ajinomoto, low. ADM, low. I think we'll stop there. 3 rounds is good enough. Okay. You got
15.
5 total, right? She got how many?
My new favorite game.
Like 2.
She got 50 total.
She got how much total?
She had 5 total.
3.
Yeah, change.
Okay, thank y'all very much. We're going to keep good track of them throughout the semester, see how things go between them. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting class for them too. What we just played, that repeating price setting game, Ajinomoto is a real firm that sold lysine as a feed additive used in livestock feed. ADM is also a corporation, and they sell, among other things, lysine, which is a feed additive. So they were in the same market. They played this game over and over and over. Now, despite what happened up here, usually, games like this, when we let them go over and over and over, people eventually end up high. They usually end up cooperating. Because, you know you're going to maybe play it 1,000 times. Going low each time is not in your best interest. Now, the government doesn't want people to do that because that's collusion and consumers would charge high prices. And so the government says colluding is illegal. I'm going to show you some clips from the movie The Informant. It's about the ADM, Ajinomoto collusion. And I want you to, and the video's got some text in it where I'm trying to describe the collusion and why they were doing things a certain way. We're in the game theory section. Next class, we're going to do the problems that you printed out, so bring it with you next week. What you need to know that ADM and Ajinomoto, instead of both agreeing on what price they charged, they agreed on how much they would sell. They both said, let's don't sell a lot so we can charge high prices. And this is a true story. the words that they say, I think, are verbatim to what was actually took place. They reported it.
There was a guy who left the company because he wouldn't do it. He was forced out. The gluconate guy, he's out of a job. I mean, I met with the guys from Ajinomoto just last month in Chicago. The whole point was to actually set volume levels, which you set the volume levels, you determine what the market is, and then you figure out workable prices. And we got another meeting next month.
Matt Damon is a guy at ADM who is an executive, and he was one of the people leading the collusion. The other two guys are people from the FBI. Matt Damon is the informant. He's ratting everybody out.
If there's anything else you want to add, now's the time.
What else is there?
March 17th, 1993. I have parked the car. I am approaching the entrance to the office. Entrance breached.
Terrence Wilson, president of our corn businesses. Did our friend from Japan call last night?
No, he wasn't in.
Well, I spoke with Mamoto, and he is pissed. He says there will be no peace in my city until we bring production down to the levels we promised.
In 92, we did exactly what we told him we would do in terms of volume. Exactly. Now, no promise.
Well, he says he wants to talk to you.
Yeah, well, I'll be right there looking at him saying, you listen here, you little mousy motherfucker.
That was Terry Wilson talking about setting volume and price levels with our Japanese competitor, Ajinomoto Corporation. By the way, there was no discussion with Mamoto last night. I did that for illustration purposes only. I repeat, there was no discussion with Mamoto.
Good morning, Liz Taylor, secretary.
Go ahead, Russell. Please.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Before we even deal with Latin America, we have to agree that we are going to swap numbers. It's the only way this is going to work. Keep everybody on target. It's possible to do. You've got to be very careful. You need to check your phones.
Excuse me, I need a comfort break. Okay.
Not last.
Terry, Alain Philippe.
Bonjour.
Hi. We obviously will play the game. But the Korean and the Japanese, they're cheap.
Then it won't work.
Well, you heard it worked in the other divisions. Tell him. Terry doesn't like me very much. He's got blotchy skin. What causes that blotchiness? It must mean something medical. He'll have a stroke and someone will say, he was blotchy, it happens.
Let's not forget that if prices went up in Europe, it's because we talked in Mexico first.
That's right. We made it happen. We have an old saying at ADM, I think it applies here. It's better to have the elephants inside the tent pissing out than outside the tent pissing in.
Outside piss?
It's better to be part of the group.
What he's saying is that the customers are our enemy, the competitors are our friend. Which is why it's important that we have all the lysine producers involved, including the Shale Corporation.
I want to know why we have been excluded from association in the past. We need to be part of this.
Yeah.
How can we know that ADM will stay at the Interpol level?
Well, it would be our preference that we simply trust each other, and if we find out someone's been lying, we'll just hire some mafia figure to rub you out. That's just a little bit of levity, of course, but the point is that if we can't trust each other, it ain't gonna work.
You're okay with that? Yes. I am all right.
So, what are we saying?
What do you have, a language problem, Mark?
Then we are all
Agree.
Yes.
If you think this was across the board, you're kind of hard to follow, don't worry. In next class, we're going to go through the questions, do everything like you, so you know what's going to be on the test. That's all for now.